The first trailer for Lord of the Rings War of the Rohirrim is out, or as it would probably be more aptly called, War of a Single Woman Defeating All of Her Enemies by Herself because she is just the strongest, smartest, most beautifulest, talented person in the entire world. There is literally a scene just like that, in fact, in the trailer. As it appears to be exactly what I thought it would be and what I predicted and said it would be. Strong woman central. As Hera, the highly un-Tolkien-esque named main character, will be saving the world pretty much by her lonesome. Here's the thing. The current year has precisely one strong female character. It is the character that is brilliant, that is strong, that is independent, that is smart, that is all of the good things in the world, but none of the people around her can recognize it. And they all just scoff at her ideas like, "Ha, woman! What does woman know about tactic? What does woman know about sword fighting? What does woman know about economy or logistics?" And then she proves them all wrong, and there's the scene where her father or somebody close to her is like, "Woman, I wish you were man. You are the cleverest of us, the strongest, the smartest, the fastest, the bestest. My God, it is as if you were written to be literally perfect." Yes. Yes, it is. And that scene is in the trailer. It's actually in the goddamn trailer. And, okay, right. A lot of people have pointed out this is being directed by Kenji Kamiyama, and okay, that might be a good thing, right? Probably he'll be able to rein this in somehow, because strong female character is not in and of itself a deal breaker. At least she looks attractive. She's a fiery redhead fighting with a sword. I can get behind that. In fact, I can see that being quite entertaining. If only they can manage to treat the source material with at least a degree of respect, I could probably just turn off my brain and enjoy the Amazon beating up the big bad hairy Northman, at least to a degree, but already you can very much so tell that is not the intention, as the director is less important when it comes to the story of such a project than the writers, and as I pointed out previously, the writers of this show, Phoebe Gittins, has, well, basically no writing creditations to her name. And the closest thing she has to Lord of the Rings is, well, cute hobbit child, uncredited, and prancing pony wench, uncredited. And Art Papageorgiou, the other writer, also, his writing credits are about as sparse as hers. And there is now also a third guy, which I believe was added later on, as the last time I checked in on the project, he was not listed, and at least he has some writing experience, so there is that. Perhaps he was pulled in at the last moment as a bit of a pinch hitter to try and fix some of the worst excesses. Perhaps it was even the director's idea. That would be the optimistic interpretation, but the more logical and realistic one is that, much like Rings of Power, this was a project that was too big to fail. There was no way they wouldn't be able to make a hit out of this. They've even got Peter Jackson in the beginning of the trailer with footage from the previous Lord of the Rings movies, because they've got credit for them. Now, I want to point out, Peter Jackson has got virtually nothing to do with this other than being paid to appear in the credits. Alright, credits in the intro of the trailer. That is about his full-scale contribution to this project right there, to try and sucker your ass into thinking that this might actually be some Lord of the Rings stuff, which I very much so doubt it's going to be, as the story itself bears only the vaguest resemblance to what we've seen from Tolkien. So, what happens in the trailer is that the Northman chieftain arrives and goes like, "Hey, your daughter and my boy has been apparently friends since childhood. Maybe we should marry them and form an alliance." And he's clearly got some nefarious intentions here, but woman is no. Woman is strong. Woman is independent. Woman do not need no man. Woman does not wish to marry pretty boy from the mountains. And the pretty boy from the mountains' father takes this this as the insult it very clearly is, of course. As I am sure Helm Hammerhand protects his daughter, like, oh, don't worry, you don't have to marry him, I'm sure he's an asshole anyway. And then they get into a little of a fist fight, which also I don't think happened in the Tolkien original, so I'm pretty sure Helm simply beat him to death there. And eventually Helm gets angry and one-punches the man to death. I bet you that was probably because he insulted his daughter at that point or something as well. Anywho, because woman has refused to marry the mountain man, she has now caused a major diplomatic incident that ended with the death of their chieftain, thereby guaranteeing a war against her people. In other words, it's all her fault. Literally. The entire war for the Rohirrim, all her fault. Every person that dies thereafter, her fault. But I am absolutely certain it will not be presented in quite that way, as, well, here's the thing. The duty of highborn daughters at the time and in this kind of feudal settings was actually to marry and make sure that they had good relationships with neighboring tribes and other factions, but ignore that. She is woman in the current year, and she is going to be fighting elephants and befriending giant eagles instead of this. And yes, she befriends the eagles. Of course she does. And she also wears some rather suspiciously magically looking garb at the end as well, as she continues to fight all of the menfolk and teach them valuable lessons about just how superior she is. The odds of this being salvageable are very, very, very small. And the absolute best case scenario I can envision is that the visuals are so good, that the acting is so good, the voice acting that is, and the presentation overall is good enough to the point where I can simply just turn off my brain and go, yes, this is strong female story. This is every other female character story from the last 20 years, but at least it's presented in anime style with enough flair that I can simply just ignore it. That is the best case scenario. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think the best director in the world can make up for a writing team that has no actual writing experience, that is then simply just going to regurgitate the same tropes that we have seen so many times now. It seems like it's going to be practically another scam like the Rings of Power, where the writers, who had no clue what they were doing, was for some reason given an enormous franchise and a huge budget with which to jerk each other off for an extended period of time, it seems. And of course, this is all a lot of judgment to make on simply a trailer. Perhaps the trailer was not a very representative slice of the actual final product. Perhaps Hira's role in all of this, again, a remarkably un-Tolkien-esque name, is not actually as all-consuming as it appears to be. Maybe, but I feel as if we've all learned valuable lessons about optimism by now, and hope, and how you really shouldn't be engaging with it unless you've got some far, well, more solid grounding than what we've seen so far in the trailer here. Yes, War for the Rohirrim. It's almost certainly going to be a massive disappointment. I am hoping that we've gotten to the point where we can see through the skin suit. Caped Crusader gave me a lot of hope in that regard, because that one I genuinely thought might be just about enough of a thick skin suit to convince people that they were actually watching Batman. Much like my adventures with Superman, which I am rather annoyed has got so many people fooled, as I absolutely despise the show. More about that in the future, by the way. And Lord of the Rings, I fear that the general audience that enjoys Lord of the Rings is so starved now for anything that even resembles good content, particularly after the long-term abuse that has been the Rings of Power, that they will be willing to swallow almost anything and everything, so long as it at least looks marginally pretty, has semi-decent acting, and might come with a fiery redhead to remind them of Eowyn, a strong female character in the Rohirrim brand. We'll see, but I am most certainly not very optimistic for this product. Until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you all very much for listening, and I do hope to see you all again soon. Have a good day.